Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for our daily semifinal recap show. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. We are headed to Canada for day one of the Atlas Games. Here to recap all the action is Brian Friend and Greg Lanctot. It has been an exciting day. Another competition underway. Greg, it looks like you're there. How's it been so far?
It's been amazing. Honestly, all the athletes have been battling from every single heat. What a show. And what a grueling day, also. I don't know if you look at the programming, but I mean, wow. A brutal first day of action here, and this day is going to leave a mark. That's for sure for the rest of the competition.
It's an exciting way to start the competition. First, let's take a look at the teams. Greg, I want to start with you. La Repair, they crushed the field on this. What are your expectations from this team going into the rest of the weekend?
Well, I mean, they crushed event number one, and I'm not surprised because they have seasoned veterans here that have been on the scene and competing on the local and regional level together for a few years. So now that they have the opportunity to actually punch a ticket to Madison, I think they are actually going to give it everything they've got so they can make it. I surprised to see them win event number one. Absolutely, but super happy as well because I've known these guys forever, and they've been doing an amazing job actually. In event number one, it was probably programmed for them as well. So, yeah, a stellar job. And if they can, try and be consistent throughout the rest of the weekend, I think they can actually achieve a top five position.
Hmm. The top five teams, they were a minute faster, a whole minute faster than the rest. Brian, are we in store for a weekend like Granite Games where the top teams just all pull away from everyone else?
Possibly. I think there's probably three teams here, being the Omnia team, the team from CrossFit Milford, and then the Pro in Montreal that are gonna. Those three, I think, will definitely distinguish themselves from everyone else. And then it'll be, there's always the potential for some teams to come up and surprise us, but I think we're looking at Woodbridge and La Repaire. There are certainly two of the other teams that are definitely in the conversation to take the last two spots. So I would say, like, hopefully not. Of course, we want to see a close competition right around the bubble, but there's definitely a few teams in this field that will, I think, continue to distance from the rest.
Moving into workout number two for the day, Brian, we'll see with you. Was this workout all about the cleans when you look at the teams who ultimately did well on this event?
Man, I mean, that's what it looked like from here. There were a lot of teams getting to the barbell at seemingly similar times, and then a couple of teams that looked to be very strong on the bar and were able to make up some ground, and others that just kind of hit a wall there. But we can't always see everything here. Greg, was that how it felt on the floor?
It was the ultimate team workout. Honestly, the way it was programmed, the way it was designed with the waterfall on the cleans, and then switching the pairs from male female and then back to male male female female and then back also male female for both pairs. We saw a race in this final event with CrossFit PSC and CrossFit Pro One Montreal, both of them exchanging lead in the cleans. And when they jumped on the bike, you saw Omnia Black just blasting through these calories. We were blown away and literally blown away by being right next to these echo bikes on the competition floor. And Lauren, you're right by saying it was all about the cleans because it crushed a lot of teams. All about the cleans, yes, because it crushed a lot of teams on the competition floor. But as you couldn't win necessarily that workout, it was all about how you were managing your energy and how you could, pace yourself through the workout with every single team member, so you could have, enough fuel in the tank to actually empty it on the bike and give it everything to go get this event win, just like Omnia Black did.
And speaking of Omnia Black, I mean, they dominated Granite Games last year. Do we expect the same from them this weekend? And are some teams just good at this style of competition?
I would say no. I think that in terms of dominating this weekend, they're going to have a battle. Like that Pro and Montreal team also won the Atlas Games last year, although it was online by a considerable margin. And I think, like I said, that Milford team, I think they're only 5 points back after day one of the tie at the top between the other two. I think that because those three teams will be stealing points from each other all weekend, there won't be a runaway here, even though those three, or maybe even four or five, might run away by the end of it.
Greg, do you think a similar tune as Brian?
What do you think? Do you think these American teams can take down Pro in Montreal?
It's always hard. It's always hard to go against Brian's word, but I agree.
Challenge
It's going
him.
to be.
Come on.
I agree to disagree with that because by seeing how Omnia Black did this first day of competition, I think that they just found their rhythm, and from now on they're going to be very hard to beat for the first place. So, is an American team going to take the crown at Atlas Games? Probably, most probably, yes. I mean, let's not be too patriotic and just say that we're going to have 5 great teams going to Madison.
I appreciate the honesty, Greg. We love that.
No
Moving
problem.
into the women's field, when we look at event 1, over half the field was time capped. How hard are those deficit handstand push-ups, Greg, or was it really the lunges that were most difficult for the women?
Uh, it, it depends. Well, there were two. Those the real answer is both of these movements. Actually, how could you pace yourself through these deficit handstand push-ups, the parallel handstand push-ups, but also, I mean, if you look all the way back to 2013 regional, that event on the first day with these walking lunges, it crushed a lot of teams as well. So going back now almost 10 years, what we see now on the competition floor, we saw a lot of athletes going pretty hot out of the gates and crushing the first rounds in under 2 minutes and a half, and then taking 4 minutes for the second round, and even more than that, and not even going through the time cap. And the seasoned veterans, the top competitors, both on the men and the women's side, knew how to pace themselves. They knew their capacity, and they didn't have any problem with the time cap. So I know this workout, when it came out, was a bit controversial. But at the end of the day, it was a hell of a show on the competition floor, and I think the athletes managed it very, very well.
And speaking of somebody who did manage it very well, I mean, Paige Powers, she won this event. She said that she was resting on the handstand push-ups. Well, it was clearly slowing everybody else on the field down. Brian, what does this event win say to you in terms of her potential against this field for the rest of the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say it was extremely impressive. She's one of the bigger athletes in the field, and you wouldn't think that parallel handstand push-up would be favorable for her. But I think that, the dynamic, explosive movement she's able to generate, coupled with obviously some good, strong shoulders, makes her. It looked like she was doing regular handstand push-ups. I mean, they looked very rhythmic, very effortless. There was no sticking point at any time, even in the last round for her. And we've seen, occasionally athletes do this. I think Alexis Raptis did something similar at the West Coast Classic last year, and it was a phenomenal performance. The lunges looked very easy, and look at that, she's winning by 50 seconds over the 3 next women that were the picks to win this competition, basically. So great start, 7th on the second workout's not that bad either, and I think that she's definitely going to be in the mix throughout the weekend.
Looking at event 2, Emma Lawson, she's in first. She took first place at this event. Greg, she's only 17 years old and looking to qualify as an individual, wins this event. Do you think that she is a serious contender against some of the games veterans and more seasoned athletes?
Well, if you asked me yesterday if I thought she was going to be in the mix and a serious contender, I would say yes. And today, the real question is, do I know she's a serious contender? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I was very surprised. I did a couple of interviews with Emma for some media here in Canada, and I mean, she the maturity she's showing, and also the display of fitness so far this season has been so impressive. And I thought she was going to be in the mix in the top 5, but that dominant after 2 events and leading all of these ladies, I'm super impressed with that performance. And I mean, I think it's the only person who can beat Emma Lawson from now on is probably Emma Lawson.
Brian, In Heat 2, we saw Allison Suggs. She won her heat, and then she was able to hold up that score as second overall for Event 2. Do you think that this is the year that she qualifies for the games as an individual?
Well, I mean, look, she had a 16th place on workout one, and we're talking about how most of the women at the top here are having pretty consistently high finishes. So that is a bit of an outlier that you really don't want to have that replicated on any future workouts going forward. I think that she's going to do pretty well at the lifting, and some of these other workouts are pretty tough. So I think that there is a potential for some of the other women to have a similarly bad workout at some point. And if that's the case, I mean, she's in seventh already with a bad workout under her belt. So if there are no more, I think she's very dangerous in this field. And that was an important finish for her to just make sure that she gets into that top heat, because it's she'll be wanting to see the girls that she's trying to track down tomorrow.
For sure. Moving on to the men's field. Greg, how fun was it seeing the back and forth in that final heat from Event 1 on the competition floor? And did you think that there was anyone that was beating Vellner on that final lunge down the floor?
No, I was actually very surprised, and by being on the Canadian scene for a couple of years now, I was watching all of those guys that I've known for a few years, and all eyes were on Vellner, Adler, and to see Nycolas Joyal pull it off. I mean, I thought it was in the top three, but Vellner got that event win, and to see him, I was so happy for him. He's been on the scene for so long. He's been working so hard, training by himself in the past 2 years in his own gym, and to see him look and get that event win, it was kind of something. It's well deserved, and I mean, so far we're going to talk about event 2, but Nycolas Joyal has been pretty impressive.
Yeah. Okay, Brian, hit us with the knowledge bombs. Who is Nycolas Joyal? What do you know about him? He wins 2 events right off the bat. He's in first overall.
Yeah, I mean, what Greg said there is notable. This people have talked about this throughout semifinals, how there's been a kind of for some people a 2-year lull from seeing them in competition, and in certain parts of the world, even if they were in semifinals last year, we never really got to see him compete because it was online. And the last time I did see him compete live in person, he did great. He was 7th place at Wodapalooza in 2020 in the men's elite division. Beat several games athletes on the way to do that. He had 4 top 10 finishes and I think a second and a fourth on some pretty, mostly kind of like CrossFit style workouts. They weren't the swimming workouts or the out of the box ones. They were just kind of and these workouts were tough today. So to get 2 events wins against that caliber of men's field with these difficulty of workouts says a lot about what Greg just said, how much work he's put in over the last 2 years. And I think really important also to notice what he said in his interview is he hasn't missed any training. He's been able to string together long periods of consistent, healthy training, and we know how valuable that can be.
Looking at another athlete who didn't really have a great day, Cedric Lapointe. He, a 24th place finish in that first workout. Do either of you guys think that he can come back from this?
Ryan, are you going first?
Nope.
He's waiting on you, Greg.
Cedric is no stranger. If you look at what he did at Sanctionals, Cedric is no stranger. He's kind of a comeback kid, so he's going to grind all the way back up to the leaderboard. He's used to that. I mean, he had a very good second event. Event number 1 didn't go as planned for sure, but I mean, Cedric Lapointe is a very, very fit competitor, and I'm pretty sure that what we saw, if you remember, I think it was at West Coast Classic. Was it last year or in 2019? I don't remember. I'm sorry, but
yeah, no, I got you. 2021 West Coast Classic. He had a really bad first event, 30th place, last in the field, and he was able to climb back to 8th and make the last chance qualifier. But there were 7 workouts that weekend, and this weekend there's only 6, so the amount of points available is less, and the amount of opportunity to do that is fewer. He had a 5th place finish on the second workout, which he needed to do. He's all the way back to 15th, so he jumped 9 spots in one workout. But he cannot afford another. I don't think he can afford another finish outside the top 10. I think the top guys will be too good otherwise.
Time to refocus and put the pedal to the metal. And if there's a guy that can dig deep and grind, it's Cedric. he's been known for that for years now. He's a super fit competitor. So I having no doubt that he will put on a show for the rest of the weekend.
And then going back to towards the top of the leaderboard, event 2, Greg, tell us all about how Joyal, he stole the show, and people who at home who don't know him are now probably like, who is he and how fit is this guy against the rest of the field?
Well, he's always been in the mix, and probably he had some bad lucks in competition or events that didn't go his way. Didn't have a chance to prove how fit he is. And I think he's been pretty focused in the past 2 years. Like I said, training by himself in his own gym. With the gym closures here in Canada during the pandemic, I know he, just like Brian said, he didn't miss a training session. He was always so focused about his goal. And I know for a fact that he didn't plan anything else this year than going to the CrossFit Games. So, I mean, seeing him, I was expecting him to be competitive and be in the mix for the top 5 or probably the last chance qualifier, but seeing him sitting at the top of the leaderboard with 2 event wins after, it's pretty much in the bank. He has to stay consistent. I don't want to jinx anything. I'm touching knock on wood now, but I mean, like Brian said, there's not 15 events this weekend. There's only 6, and he won 2 of them. So he's distancing himself from the rest of the pack. And that's very promising to see him finally get his ticket to Madison.
Brian, Pat Vellner, he got 3rd in this last event, but it started to fade in that final round of the workout. Is this concerning at all to you?
I mean, when you're talking about Pat Vellner, we're talking about different expectations than most of the other guys. Like, Vellner is trying to win the CrossFit Games this year, and he knows that his window of opportunity to do that is small, and that, the guy that's in the way, Justin Medeiros, is very good. So when I see that happen to him at the end of the workout, it's not what I want to see. Regardless of where he's finishing, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th in the workout, I want to see him, climbing up the field towards the end of the weekend. I do have a thought about this, though, because it's possible that he's experimenting with things. So he might have approached that workout knowing he was going to do well no matter what, and maybe he set a pace that he knew was ambitious and just wanted to see how his body would react to it. I don't know if it's the best place to do it, but it looked pretty aggressive and almost unnecessarily so maybe he knew something that we don't know there.
And finally, looking at the men's field, an athlete that we talk about a lot, Jeffrey Adler, how solid was his day? I mean, he had a 3rd on event 1, event 2, he had a 4th. What are your guys' thoughts on him heading into day 2? Greg, we'll have you start.
Well, Jeffrey is a complete stud. If you want a guy who will challenge for the title here at the Atlas Games, it's him. I know in the handstand push-ups, he had a couple of costly no reps, but it probably cost him an event win right there. I don't want to take away anything from Nycolas Joyal or from Patrick Vellner, but Adler was very competitive in that event and had to do a lot more reps than these guys. So looking forward to that. If he can fuel what he had to go through in event number 1 and and put that into execution for the next 2 days. And Jeffrey moves very well. He's a very methodic athlete also, and he's pretty fit, I guess. So
and he's got a lot of barbells in front of him on day 2, which I think he's going to be excited about. And he's a guy. I don't expect him to have any bad finishes this weekend. I think what we've seen from him is about what you're going to see, and maybe even a win thrown in there. He's just as good a bet at this point as anyone to win the Atlas Games.
All right, so who are you guys going to be watching heading into day 2 of competition?
Usually I like to watch the ones on the outside. I can't see. Where's the leaderboard here?
I'll pull it up
You
for
got
you.
a leaderboard for me?
Do you want the women's or the men's first?
Either one.
Okay. We'll pull up the men's. I got it right.
Where's Alex Vigneault? Oh, he's in 6th? I'm not too worried about Alex Vigneault in 6th. I'm interested in Benoit Boulanger. This guy is a little bit of an outlier physically. He's one of the taller, and he's a little bit skinnier, younger side of athletes still, and he's developing into his body. He can be very good on certain workouts. I think his strength is still coming along. So 7th place is a great place for him on day 1. And if he's able to move some weight well tomorrow, then we might be talking about another guy who's in the mix this weekend.
Who are you watching on the women's side?
I think that there's only one. Keep going down a little. Where it is? Oh man.
Keep scrolling. How far are we going down, Brian?
No, I had to have missed her. I had to have missed her at the top.
Come on, Brian. Say a name. Say a name.
Well, it's just been one of those days. Oh, there she is. Ellie Hiller. Didn't expect her to have a great day like this, and she's sitting here right in the mix. You know, behind her is Allison Suggs, who we just talked about, Aaron Vandendreich, who won a sanctional during that time period, and then the 5 women ahead of her are people that we're looking at with a good chance to make the games. But 6th and 10th, very, very good. Curious to see how strong she is and if she can stay relevant in this conversation. We've seen a lot of kind of new faces make moves in the semifinals throughout this season, and maybe she's the one who's going to take advantage of the opportunity here in Montreal.
All right, Greg, who are you keeping your eye on the second day of competition?
Definitely Allison Suggs with their performance on workout number 2, placing second. Was workout number 1? I mean, the workout she was dreading, and she's going to recover from that. And I, just like Brian, I like to look at athletes that are on the outside looking in and punching their tickets. So definitely Allison Suggs, the crowd favorite here. I'm going to look at her closely tomorrow. And on the men's side, there's a few actually. Now, Nycolas Joyal has a target on his back, and I want to see how he reacts to that. Like, he made a statement today. That's one thing. Big thing, but that's still one thing. And now how he reacts to that with all of the other seasoned veterans, I'm going to definitely look at him. And also Cedric Lapointe, I want to see how also he reacts and see if he can put on a show and climb back on the leaderboard.
All right, Brian, Greg, thank you guys so much for recapping day 1 of competition. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow for all the action.